Welcome to session 11. You'll notice at the end of session 11 on page 42 there are notes that are there that you can just write down a full page of notes. So there are quite a few things that you may want to jot down as we're going, or even when this video has ended, you may want to replay it again and just take down some notes just for your benefit. Session 11 is about final divorce papers, covering all of your bases. What does that look like? You've finally gotten through everything, whether you settled in mediation or final trial, and now you need to figure out what your papers need to say. Okay, so the first bullet point says the forms that you find in the law library, they're usually called something like final decree of divorce or divorce decree or something similar to that. And if you just ask the law librarian, what are the actual divorce papers, what are they called? And they'll absolutely, he or she will tell you what that is in your area. Number two, they usually meet most of your needs and wants. Number three, retirement accounts. What's the best practice? Submit a proposed order for review to your plan administrator before the judge signs your divorce decree. And the reason why you do that is sometimes there can be some back and forth as far as language and getting everything just the way that the plan administrator needs it to be, especially if we talked about in a couple of sessions ago when we talked about ERISA compliant orders, so that way you don't end up paying taxes because you didn't divide the retirement account correctly. Okay, so this is kind of tied into that. And essentially what I'm saying is this. Sometimes there's some back and forth in between that. Again, most of the time you will ask the plan administrator for a sample order or a form that they use as an order, so there won't be too much room for error there, because they're the ones that's actually giving you the order for you to fill out. And what you're essentially filling out is, how is this account being divided? Is it being divided 50-50? Is it being, is there any other special little things that you need to happen that you came to agreement with, either in mediation or the judge told you to do when you had final trial? You want to make sure that they kind of sign off on it and say, yes, this is the proper thing or the proper way that the order is supposed to look like for the retirement account. They'll give you the okay to submit it to the judge. And sometimes that back and forth can be more than 30 days. And here's the problem. Most states, judges lose the power to sign documents pertaining to your divorce 30 days after they sign the final divorce papers. Okay, let me say that again. In most states, and this is true in Texas, when the judge signs your divorce papers, the clock starts. And you have 30 days to get anything else signed, that you need. You need to make any tweaks or changes. Obviously, you have to get the okay from your ex, but you need to make sure that you're in that 30-day window. So you don't want to be, super pressured to be kind of going back and forth with the plan administrator. You got a week left, because it's been 3 weeks since the judge signed your final divorce decree, and the plan administrator went on vacation. You don't want to find yourself in that situation. So you want to make sure that at the time that you get your divorce paper signed, that you also have your retirement order ready to go for the judge to sign also. Okay. Number four, there may be special paragraphs that you may need to add to your final papers for the judge to sign. And why would you need that? If you came to a special or unusual agreement in mediation or an agreement on your own. So in other words, you came to a special agreement saying, say for example, you guys had a speedboat, and your ex wants to say, what, I want to use the speedboat for the next 5 years, and then you can have it after that. Whatever it is, whatever the special provision is, you're not likely to find that in the regular form orders that you get from the law library. So you have to include that language or that paragraph in your papers. Say the second check mark says, in the final trial, if you have one, if you settle in mediation, then this doesn't apply to you. But if you had a final trial in front of the judge or God forbid in front of a jury, where the judge made decisions on what's going to happen with your kids and your stuff. The judge ordered one or both of you to do something or to give something, and it's not in the form book. It's not any of the paragraphs that are in the standard form. The last check mark says it has to conform, or it has to be uniform. It has to be in line to the agreement you made with your husband or the judge's orders, whatever the judge ordered you to do at the time of final trial. So if you had a final trial, you weren't able to settle in mediation or on your own, then whatever the judge ordered you guys to do, that's what has to be included in the final divorce papers. Top of page 39. If you are transferring property from one person to another, say for example, you got the house, all right? So your husband's going to transfer his interest to you, or if your husband has to do something that you agreed upon or that the judge has ordered, then make sure you put a date when it has to be done. So say for example, the judge says, you know what, okay, so you get the house, and husband, you have to make sure you give her the keys, the garage door opener, the insurance policy that's on the house, the deed to the house, all of that stuff. You need to make sure that there are dates assigned to every single thing that he's supposed to do, to make sure that it gets done, and make sure there's a date, a positive date that he's supposed to get it done. Because if he doesn't, that way you can what's called enforce it. If there's no date, you say, he was supposed to sign over the car that I'm supposed to keep. The car is in both our names, and he's supposed to sign it over, so it's just in my name. But we never put a date when he's supposed to sign the car over to me. So, I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs. I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do. And, so you don't want to find yourself in that situation. Every single thing that he's supposed to do, make sure that there's a date assigned to it. So that way everybody knows what's expected of them. Special language about your house. Special language about your house. Number one, if you are staying in the house, put a date that he's leaving the house, okay? Again, I'm just re-emphasizing that. I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, what's also very important about that is make a list of all the things that he's agreed to take, and take a list of all the things that you're keeping. Now, again, you don't have to be so detailed that, you're writing down every set of earrings, every single fork or knife. I'm not saying that. You could identify it by saying, all of the kitchenware in the kitchen I'm keeping, or, you can take your mom's cast iron pot and, that special tea kettle that was passed down from generation to generation, but you're keeping everything else that is considered kitchen pots and pans and dinnerware and flatware. And so that kind of covers everything. What's also important is when you make this list, don't just attach a list to the back of your papers. Type out the list in the body of your divorce papers. Okay, so there'll be a paragraph that says you're awarded the house on 1515 Mockingbird Lane in anywhere USA, right? And then right underneath that it says, okay, by X amount of date, your husband has to give you like I said, the keys, the garage door opener, et cetera, et cetera. And then underneath that, that's, usually a good place to put your list. I'm keeping, all of the linen, I'm keeping all of the dishes. I'm keeping, he's taking, the love seat and the spare bedroom set and, all the fishing rods, whatever else. You get where I'm going with this. So that way there is no doubt as to what is included in the divorce papers. Because sometimes in some states, they can say, if you just, stapled a list on the back of your divorce papers of all the stuff that he's taking and all the stuff you're keeping, that is not officially a part of your divorce papers, and it's not really enforceable. You don't want to find yourself there either. So the best practice is just type up the list and put it in the body of the divorce papers itself. Top of page 40. Okay, we're still talking about covering all the bases. So if you are leaving the house and he's refinancing because he's staying in the house, or if the house will be sold. Okay, the first check mark says, make sure the papers say that the title company pays your share of the proceeds directly to you. Again, we talked about that a little bit earlier, but I wanted to emphasize that again to make sure that you remember to put it in that divorce, in your final divorce papers, okay? Make sure you put in there that the title company pays you directly, not your husband. Next check mark says, have an agreement on the value of your house, or what the list price is going to be. Make sure that's in the divorce decree. Next check mark says, make sure the papers say what circumstances you are willing to reduce the list price, and who determines when the list price gets reduced and by what amount. Again, sometimes some people go ahead and have the realtor who lists it. They determine whether the price needs to be dropped and by how much. Or you may just come to an agreement yourself and say, you know what, the first 60 days, we'll have it at the original list price. Then every 30 days after that, you reduce it by 2%, 5%, or you reduce it by $5,000, whatever it is. If you want to do it percentages, or if you want to do it a dollar amount, doesn't matter. Just make sure that you put that in the papers, and make sure that you're just detailed saying, the house shall be listed by February 1st, 2019. 60 days after that date, if the house doesn't sell, the house gets reduced by $5,000. And every 30 days after that, the house gets reduced by $5,000 until it's sold. Something like that. Make sure you put in your papers who the realtor will be. And even want to be more specific and say, how much, commission they get paid. You're certainly welcome to do that. Okay. Moving on to top to page 41. We're talking about now special languages about retirement accounts. State which retirement accounts are getting divided and who is keeping which accounts. Sometimes, again, if you guys are both were working throughout the marriage and you guys have pretty much equal income, give or take, or pretty much equal amount in your respective retirement accounts, then you might just say, you know what, you keep your retirement account that you've had with a Sunshine Company, and I'm going to keep my retirement account with Happy Time Hospital, wherever you work. Just make sure that you identify with some particularity, so that way they know which one. Make sure that you say the percentage or the dollar amount that the accounts are being divided. So, say for example, you are dividing accounts and you're dividing it 50-50. You'll say, there's 4 retirement accounts and each one of them is getting divided 50-50. You'll say, retirement account number 1 with, Exxon Mobil, ending in 352 is being divided 50-50, 50 to the husband and 50 to the wife. The next one, the retirement account with Happy Time Hospital is being, ending in 649. You get where I'm going with that. Okay, now bank accounts, cars, and other personal property. State which accounts are getting divided and who's keeping which accounts. Again, now we're talking about bank accounts. So if you have a bank account with Citibank, and say, for example, you guys, between you, had 3 accounts at Citibank, make sure you say, Citibank savings account, or Citibank checking account, or Citibank money market account, whatever it is, and make sure you use the last 3 digits of the account to identify it. Number 3, it says, again, put the percentage each one of you is keeping from each and every account. Don't sleep on this. Don't, try to ball it all up in one. Each individual account, specify. Okay, we're splitting it 50-50, you're taking 10 grand out of it, he's getting 7 grand out of it, whatever it is. Number 4, state who is keeping each car and other property. Make a list of the items. So again, you kind of already done this before as far as what he's taking out. Like I said, if he's taking the love seat and then the bedroom set to the spare bedroom, then make sure that you state that. Make sure also too, a lot of people forget when they are saying which car they're keeping, make sure you put the make, model on there and also the VIN number. Number 5, put a date when he has to either close an account or get his name off an account you're keeping. So say for example, you're not splitting one of the accounts. So say, for example, you have 4 accounts in Citibank and 1 account in Bank of America. And you say, okay, we're splitting all of the Citibank accounts, but the Bank of America account you're keeping, but right now it's a joint account in Bank of America, and so you need to make sure if you're going to keep it, then put a date down as to when he has to take his name off the account. Okay? Now, include anything else that you came to an agreement with your husband in mediation or that the judge ordered you to do. Okay? So make sure that you're including everything that the judge told you to do. If you had to go to final trial, or you're including everything that's in the mediation agreement. And again, it's one of the reasons why you're a little more specific in the mediation agreement, because in your mediation agreement, it'll remind you, hey, it's right in the mediation agreement. It says that he has 60 days to refinance the house, and if he doesn't, then the house has to be listed on the market 30 days after that. So it'll remind you to make sure that it finds its way into your final papers. Okay, so that's the end of session 11. You're doing really good. We've got one more, and then we're done.